Revenge is a dish best served by the TV region. That's right. We all love the moment of sweet satisfaction when a troubled character finally inflicts justice upon their wrongdoer in the most badass way possible. So with that in mind, today I'm giving you the top 25 revenge scenes across films and TV. Denis Villeneuve is one of the few directors of the modern era who truly understands what cinema's supposed to be. Just look at the roster of films he's directed. Arrival, Prisoners, Enemy, Dune, and of course the much-awaited Dune 2. One film that doesn't nearly get enough love is Sicario, which is probably one of the most brutal films I've ever seen by a mainstream director. The revenge scene where Alejandro offs Alarcon's wife and sons in front of him right before taking his life too was such a daring moment from a directorial perspective. I don't know many people who would have had the guts to kill off a family which included 2 kids. Maybe it's because Denis is French. Back to the scene though, I'd say Alejandro's moment was a truly poignant one that came full circle since he did this to avenge his own family. You know, every goddamn villain always tries that it wasn't personal, it was just business line, but that makes it more insulting. You're basically telling a vengeful badass your family meant nothing. Their entire lives were just boxes to check on a to-do list one day. Like, even if Alejandro was considering mercy for the wife and kids, Alarcon pretty much signed off on their graves too with that line.
The grieving lawyer. Your wife. You think she'd be...
Never knew James Bond was such a shady character before he joined the Secret Service, but what's even more surprising is seeing Tom Hanks offing someone in cold blood. 2002's Road to Perdition was a complex film exploring various themes, but I just want to focus on the moment where Michael Sullivan finally gets his revenge on Daniel Craig's Connor by shooting him right in his hideous spot. That too, in that bathtub. The dynamic of this scene is presented in a very stylish manner as we see Sullivan calmly going about his business right until he finally pulls the trigger. Normally you'd expect something brutal and filled with rage, especially if you consider the fact that Connor took the lives of Sullivan's wife and one of his sons. However, the actual assassination isn't even shown on screen, and all we have to go by is the reflection on the door's mirror as it slowly creaks after Sullivan leaves. What's even more shocking is that Connor is kind of like a pseudo-brother to Sullivan, so that just makes the whole thing a lot more messed up. Still, I feel this had much more of an impact than a standard revenge scene, and I've really got to give it to Sam Mendes for pulling off such an amazing sequence. Okay, before I go ahead, I want to talk about keeps. Certified badasses like Samuel L. Jackson and J.K. Simmons may have their own appeal. I'm sure most men would prefer not to end up with their hairline, or rather lack of one. Enter Keeps, an online subscription service that offers FDA-approved treatments to treat male pattern baldness. Having already helped over 1 million men worldwide, Keeps delivers customized and curated solutions discreetly to your home at regular intervals suited to your needs and convenience. You can also contact the Keeps care team via their secure messaging portal if you've got any questions related to your orders. All their treatments are recommended by licensed medical providers, and clinical studies have shown that they're 90% effective in treating hair loss issues. Personally, I was lucky enough to nip my receding hairline in the bud by starting my Keeps package just at the right time. They also offer hair thickening shampoos, conditioners, and styling pomades for healthy hair growth. Start seeking out results within 6 months of starting regular treatment. Check out keeps.com/thetv-region or visit the link in the description for exciting offers that only cost half of what traditional pharmacies would charge. So, what are you waiting for? Start your hair loss treatment today with Keeps. I still maintain that Inglourious Basterds is Quentin Tarantino's best film since Pulp Fiction, and I'm sure that you'd agree with me. Apart from the countless other scenes that would support my statement, I want to point out the final act where Shoshana finally gets her revenge for what the Nazis did to her family. Sure, she doesn't get Hans Landa, who was one of the direct causes of her loss, but she does end up finishing off every one of the Nazis attending the film premiere, one of whom just so happened to be Adolf Hitler. What really works over here is the fact that you'd never believe someone like Shoshana would be able to pull off such a drastic moment of vengeance. She doesn't look like the kind of girl who would stand up to so many powerful men, but the power of loss does strange things to a human being, and her meticulous plan finally comes to fruition, even though she may not have been alive to see it firsthand.
Schloss aus! And I want you to look deep into the face.
Despite this, watching her maniacal face laughing in the middle of the flames almost as if she's enjoying the burning sensation really left a strong impression on me. Man, if only World War II ended this way.
This, please.
Say what you will about Ozark, the one thing that stands out is the fact that a lot of big characters get dropped without any kind of extended farewell of exposition. The standard nature of such deaths is why Ruth shooting Harvey lands up on my list. It's such a quick moment that everyone's taken by surprise, even Marty and Wendy, both of whom by now should be experienced in this department. Yep, I know Ruth's recklessness had a role to play in Wyatt's demise, but hey, this is still a revenge scene, and it was most definitely served in the coldest way possible. I really love this short sequence because there's no exposition given by Ruth. It does seem more realistic that she doesn't make Harvey sit down and tell him the reason she's getting rid of him. She just does it. The once invincible aura that Harvey believed he had around him was instantly disrupted and ended before you could even blink.
I used to love to hear you fucking talk.
Also found it kind of funny how Ruth briefly looks at Marty and Wendy almost as if she's considering shooting them next. Yeah, she really was in a mood that night, wasn't she? Let me just say that while this scene is brutal and way too torturous a way for someone to bite the dust, Krug most definitely deserved it.
Well, you should pick a hell of a time to grow some balls.
After what he did to poor Mary, it was only a matter of time before her parents John and Emma took matters into their own hands.
Carry you!
Now, there's a lot that happens before this revenge moment, because it's basically John and Emma getting rid of Francis and Sadie, after which they paralyze Krug. However, what really stood out to me was the fact that even after rushing to the hospital to treat everyone's injuries, John comes back to the house and drags Krug's head inside a freaking microwave. How he got that device to operate even with the door open still amazes me, but it was the actual head explosion that shocked everyone to their core when they first saw this in the cinema halls. I can totally understand why John would do such a thing, because he is a father after all, and he'd never forgive anyone who'd make his daughter go through an ordeal like that. The way he walks off while Krug is still getting microwaved is a stoic moment if you ask me. See, this is why I don't have a microwave at home. Wait, this is a reason for me to actually get one, isn't it? This movie has a very tragic story behind it in real life, but the focus is on the revenge scene, so I'm going to look now where Eric gets rid of T-Bird by strapping him to a car seat and then blowing him up like it's the 4th of July.
I am going to miss you.
I have something to give you.
The way this movie begins is with a brutal double homicide, so the audience was already warned about what could happen later. I was obviously rooting for Eric all the way because he and Shelley didn't deserve such a horrific fate. The fact that Bro was resurrected by a crow may have seemed hilarious from the outset, but the eventual depiction of his vengeance made sure we understood the character's intentions and mission. I personally believe that using a raven instead of a crow would have added a lot more impact.
30 hours of pain.
But that doesn't take anything away from what I believe is one of the most underrated films from the 90s. Also, with the way T-Bird was trying to act cocky in front of Eric, I absolutely felt nothing for him when he met his end. Plus, with the whole crow symbol forming after the pier explosion, it almost felt like Eric was the new Batman.
30 hours of pain.
Hold it!
Let me get this straight. There's a version of Morgan Freeman where he doesn't look as old as he does now. Honestly, I thought Bro had the same face ever since he came out of his mother's womb.
Misfire. Kill us, bitch.
Anyway, his role as Ned in 1992's Unforgiven was a memorable one, but it ended abruptly thanks to Little Bill and his men. That's when the OG badass Clint Eastwood decides to take care of the situation and proceeds to kick off a rather extended but satisfying revenge scene. It all begins with Will shooting Skinny with a freaking shotgun for displaying Ned's corpse, but it's the shootout that follows which takes the cake.
Who's the fella who owns this shithole?
I mean, you'd normally expect the hero to just flawlessly end everyone right there and then, but Will's shotgun misfires when he takes aim at Little Bill.
Any man don't want to get killed.
On top of that, Little Bill fails to take his own shot before being off, so the whole luck factor narrative fits in with this whole sequence. The chaotic nature of the shootout reinforces the same fact for Will, which adds an almost surreal aspect to the film. It doesn't matter where you put him, Clint Eastwood will always be that guy. Bro must be calling 911 to ask what's their emergency.
That's right. I've killed women and children.
Hello, Arthur Mitchell.
Well, this one's a bit of a curveball, isn't it? Dexter has always been presented as a vigilante, inflicting his own kind of justice on wrongdoers, but his battle against Arthur Mitchell, aka the Trinity Killer, was a drawn-out one. It does end with Dexter besting the man and getting rid of him with a rather savage hammer attack.
I should have fucking killed you when I had the chance.
But the weirdest thing here is that Bro doesn't even know he's getting revenge for what Arthur did to Rita. On a side note, this is a public service announcement to everyone to just please check if you have your ID on you before leaving for the airport.
So what do you want?
I want you to disappear from my life.
Just look at what happens to Rita for not doing that. The roller coaster of emotions in this scene is so weird because at first, we feel satisfied that our boy Dexter finally wins the battle of the killers.
This isn't your doing. This is God's plan. I accept that now.
But then we experience sadness over the fact that he's lost his life partner in the process. Oh yeah, and his son's also going to end up the same way he did. I suppose Arthur would have gotten the last laugh if he could have been present to see it for himself.
I believe it. But it's not gonna save you.
If Brian Mills is telling you that he has a very specific set of skills that will allow him to track you down and take your life, then you better think of a better response than good luck. Obviously, Liam Neeson will always end up saving his daughter, and the finale to 2008's Taken was a tense finish.
We get niggas.
But the direct revenge scene is showcased when Brian meets Marco for the first time. One good luck interpretation later,
I don't know! No! Please! Please!
and Bro has finished off an entire gang of goons with maximum effort. The actual revenge comes when he tortures Marco for information and leaves him to fry even after getting what he wants.
You either give me what I need or this switch will stay on until they turn the power off for lack of payment on the bill.
Man, that was a brutal way to do it. But if I was in Brian's place, I would have probably done the same thing. Walking away while leaving a dude to be electrocuted till the power gets cut off is cold, but I get it.
Exercise would become counterproductive. But here, the power is stable.
The look on Marco's face was tough to watch, but this one was one of the many reasons why I still love Taken. I mean, you can't deny the impact of a film that's got an entire episode of Family Guy dedicated to it.
I don't know. Please! I don't know! I don't know! No! Please! Please!
They're all gonna laugh at you! They're all gonna laugh at you! They're all gonna laugh at you!
Stephen King has written quite a few classics. There have been some awesome film adaptations of his work too, most notably The Shining, Misery, and 1976's Carrie. Sissy Spacek totally owned her role as the troubled Carrie, and her outburst in the prom scene is such a brilliant sequence, even though it involves God knows how many deaths.
Trust me, Carrie.
The staging of the characters and Spacek's performance both enhance the nature of Carrie's revenge because they help the scene play out in the best possible manner. It started off as a metaphorical bloodbath and ended up as an actual one. Brian De Palma sure knows how to execute vengeance. And even though I'm a bit suspicious of the fact that Tommy died from a bucket to the head, it still served as the perfect trigger for Carrie. She had finally started to feel accepted by her peers and it all came crashing down on her. Man, it really is a sad, tragic moment. But yeah, I do want to give props to the stunt coordination team because the way some of these characters bit the dust wouldn't have been easy to pull off. Bullying's always something that everyone should avoid, and this scene may be an exaggeration but does offer a lot of insight into what it does to the victim's mindset. If we ever mention mafia movies, then The Godfather will always be a part of the conversation. This remains Francis Ford Coppola's most popular film, and for good reason too.
You gotta go, you gotta go.
Now, when it comes to revenge, it's part and parcel of every gangster family, but in the case of Solozzo and McCluskey, they kind of took their betrayal to a whole other level with the Corleone family. What follows is a thrilling sequence where Michael kind of ascends to the life of his mafia family by taking down the very same people who betrayed his folks. This is easily one of Al Pacino's best scenes in a movie. He has a huge task of not only showing the audience that he's nervous, but also making sure that Solozzo and McCluskey don't get suspicious. There are no subtitles because at this point, what they're saying doesn't even matter. We know the plan. The only thing on our mind is, can he do it? His nervous eyes darting down to the ground suggest doubt and fear. The anticipation grows more and more unnerving when Michael comes back to the table. Salazar speaks, but Michael doesn't hear it. You can see him psyching himself up for what's about to come as the train whistle blows louder and louder, not literally but in his mind, and we see the unraveling of an innocent man as he meets his ultimate destiny, the one he tried so hard to escape. It's amazing to see how a character who was initially just supposed to be a one-off dude has now become one of the most memorable faces from the Breaking Bad universe. Mike clearly had no time for nonsense and always came across as a badass dude, so you can only imagine how he'd respond after hearing how the corrupt cops of Philly ended up taking the life of his son, Matty. This revenge scene is pure genius simply because of the way our man tricks the cops into taking him to a secluded place. Let me tell you something, it ain't easy acting drunk without looking fake or goofy. Mike pulls it off with finesse and went on to give Hoffman and Fensky what they really deserved. I mean, come on, you can't just off one of your own over the mere suspicion that he might rat you out for your bribes. If that was the case, then dudes like Gunner and Tekashi 6ix9ine wouldn't be alive right now. Anyway, kudos to Mike for pulling off such an amazing trick and finishing the job in cold blood. At this point, it's kind of like his brand identity to do so. Sergio Leone really was the king of westerns. Bro decided to retire from the genre, but then Paramount enticed him into making yet another movie. And oh boy, he sure made a classic. Now, just so you know, I prefer the European cut that's almost 3 hours long because it fleshes out the characters at a much better pace. The only characters we need to focus on right now though are Frank and the aptly named Harmonica. What I really like about the movie is that they don't really reveal why Harmonica has that thing against Frank until right at the very end. After we realize that Frank had hanged Harmonica's older brother, it all makes sense, and then we see something even more badass when a harmonica is forced into Frank's mouth, the same way he'd done to the little brother when he desperately tried to keep his older brother alive. Vintage films really have a separate kind of appeal to them, and so do the stars from that era. I mean, just look at Charles Bronson over here. Bro doesn't say a single word, and he's still able to remind Frank of what he did all those years ago.
They're going back to the Citadel. They know it's undefended.
I still maintain that the OG Mad Max films are better, but that doesn't mean that Mad Max Fury Road is a bad movie. It had great action sequences that served as complete entertainment and gave us a very well written villain in Immortan Joe.
That's mine.
Even though we're made to understand his situation and his ailments, we also see the dark side to his rule as he withholds necessities like water and pushes women to make babies with him. Thank God he never got to raise a worthy heir, because he isn't the perfect father figure to follow. The main reason why Furiosa's vengeance lands so high up on this list is because of the action sequences that lead to Immortan Joe's eventual demise. There were some cool fight sequences coming from Max and Furiosa, building up to Joe getting his life support system ripped off his freaking face, and I totally loved the savagery on display. This dude had it coming, you know, so nobody felt bad about seeing him go in such a horrible manner. That face mask really must have been something, eh? I mean, for a certain time, even Christopher Nolan had us thinking that Tom Hardy had a similar dependency on face coverings. Denzel Washington was bound to show up at some point over here because Man on Fire showcased a whole different side to his versatility. Peter's kidnapping clearly didn't go well with him, so...
Let me show you what I got here. See this? This is a Charger.
He decided to give the getaway driver a piece of his mind with suppository bombs. The humiliation with which Bro violates the man is worse than any kind of Andrew Tate dialogue would have inflicted.
2 bags, too, but one.
Like, it's one thing to straight off your enemy, but to strap him naked to car with bombs waiting to blow up was a class act.
That's what you have in your ass right now.
even if it might have been a tad extreme. The way he says, "I wish you had more time," only goes on to show why the man is such a legend. Creasy was never meant to feel such emotions, but the introduction of a pseudo-daughter completely changed him, and we can see the change in outlook, especially after Peter is put into any kind of danger. I want to say I feel sorry for the driver because being incinerated in an explosion doesn't sound very nice, but hey, that's just how a badass operates.
Last wish. I wish you had more time.
It's top 10 time, so let's kick things off with a fan favorite. Gus Fring may have been a villain, but I swear he got a lot more love than a lot of heroes do in their lifetime. I mean, I found Skylar more of an antagonist than him. At least Gus wanted to make money and grow with Walt. Anyway, my focus here is when he finally gets his revenge on Don Eladio by poisoning not just him, but his entire crew as well. You gotta give props to the man for consuming the poison himself to prove it was safe, and then to puke it out in the classiest way possible. Like, how on earth do you make throwing up look appealing? Of course, it was all to get back at Don for what he'd done to his partner Max via Hector. Man, if you can pull off a plan like that with such flawless execution, it's hard to even condemn the fact the bro took part in a literal massacre. I love how Gus says nothing to Don when he's dying in his final moments. The thing is, he doesn't have to. Bro doesn't even look that angry. He's just like, "You're getting put down now, and you know exactly why." This is such an underrated movie. It should have easily hit $1 billion at the box office.
So you got a girl or something?
I mean, think about it. You got one of the most badass dudes on the planet openly mocking the same justice system that he's using to get himself out of trouble.
I got a few bros back home.
Oh, yeah? You have a boyfriend in here, then?
Law-Abiding Citizen is a brilliant movie, and I'd love to talk more about its premise, but I need to focus on revenge, which is in this case, the trigger event. Seeing Clyde torture Darby in such extreme fashion may seem inhumane to some, but when you consider the fact that the victim had taken the lives of the culprit's wife and daughter while forcing him to watch the ordeal, your sympathy kind of fades away now, doesn't it? You should never underestimate the power of a grieving father, and this scene accurately showcases it. I love how Clyde is perfectly controlling his emotions and making sure they don't get the better of him, because at the end of the day, his plan depends on his composure. Gerard Butler is actually a pretty good actor. So I do hope people remember him for roles like these, and not just as King Leonidas from 300.
Anything you want.
I want my father back, you son of a bitch.
It may suck to hear the same thing over again, so imagine how Ruger must have felt while also being killed by the one and only Inigo Montoya. I swear, bro kept getting stronger with each line as if it was some kind of healing spell. Also,
Prepare to die. Stop saying that!
I know that this might be an unpopular opinion, but "you've got an overdeveloped sense of vengeance" is a great villain quote. Of course, I can understand why Inigo Montoya would want to avenge his father in such a precise manner, but I also want to point out a piece of film trivia for your reference. I'd read an interview with the actor who played Inigo, and he said that during this scene, he felt the emotions intensely because his own father had recently died of cancer, so
Power to promise me that. All that I have and more. Please.
due to this, he was thinking about how he wanted his father back and letting out his anger at his death. Now that makes this overall sequence even more powerful.
Hello. My name is Inigo Montoya. You killed my father.
3.
For all the X-Men lovers out there, it's not much of a task to understand why Magneto turned out the way he did, because the world never really gave him a chance to find love. Dealing with tragedy and loss had become almost a daily activity for Eric.
He's Eric.
And nothing would have affected him more than losing his own mother. The culprit behind this was Sebastian Shaw, so all of us were expecting some kind of payback for what happened.
3.
Well, it didn't go as smoothly as Magneto would have wanted, but with a little assist from Charles Xavier, Bro managed to flip the coin and pass it through his enemy's head. Professor X may have also had to deal with the pain for a bit, but it was Shaw who never recovered from it. It was brutal and cold, but at the same time, it was also expected and somewhat deserving.
I am killing you.
This scene has got to have the record for the most headshots within a span of like 2 minutes. Martin Scorsese's a master of cinema, so it's no shocker that the ending of 2006 The Departed was such a roller coaster of a journey.
Well, what happened is this bull would go right through your fucking head!
With Leonardo DiCaprio's Costigan getting a completely unexpected death and Brown's subsequent offing, the coast was all clear for Matt Damon's Sullivan, which is why he offered Barry Gunn to clear his own name.
I'm still fucking arresting you.
Of course, he did have one last loose end, and that was Mark Wahlberg's Dignam, who made sure to exact his revenge in simple, yet triumphant fashion. It was way too much for the audience to take in, and I also like the symbolic depiction of a rat at the end of the film to signify how the film's whole theme unfolded. This is the exact opposite of a typical Hollywood ending, and I love it for that very reason.
Okay.
The reason why John Wick became such a hit was because of its refreshing action, brutalist world building, and most importantly, an undying love for dogs. Joseph should have known better than to mess with the most competent assassin in the world, and personally, I think he was better off as Theon Greyjoy in Game of Thrones, even if he didn't have his member on him. In this case, John executes a solid plan to wipe him out, and he made sure to look at him in the face while it all ended. Everyone else was taken out at a distance except Joseph, because John wanted to see his face. The gut hit, the methodical walk, the final shot, and then a quick cut to John's face to show the audience the last thing Joseph ever saw. It was simply perfection. When Bro enters the classroom, the teachers raise their hands to ask him a question.
Shit.
This is a case of instant revenge, which is always a pleasure to watch. Leon the Professional is a cult hit that continues to gather new fans every day, and most of that is thanks to Jean Reno, giving us a brilliant performance as the titular hitman. This is another one of those cases where a Giga Chad bad boy finally finds some humanity when he comes across a little child to take care of. In this case, it's Matilda, so Leon makes sure to leave her with a happy future as he takes down Stansfield right after he shoots him in the back. The detailing of the scene is pretty good, especially with the grenades only going off when Leon releases the pressure and it all goes kaboom. It's a tragic scene because we're all hoping for Leon to guide Matilda moving forward, but I guess we'll just have to do with an explosion to get rid of her tormentors.
This is from Matilda.
You can't just kill Maximus's family and hope to get away with it. Just ask Commodus. He drew a lot of hatred from fans, but that just goes on to show how good of an actor Joaquin Phoenix is. The final fight between Maximus and Commodus was our hero's final hurrah, because all he could see was himself being reunited with his family in the afterlife. Watching the Evil King struggle for his life in his final moments was oddly satisfying to watch, and I like how Maximus makes sure he takes full advantage of the moment, not just to finish off Commodus, but also to rework the politics of the Empire. This is what a true hero aspires for his people. The Red Wedding may have been a shocker, but seeing Arya Stark enacting her revenge upon Walder Frey and his kids was as good of a revenge scene as the series could have possibly given us.
The last thing you're ever going to see is a Stark smiling down at you as you die.
The impact of losing family members is obviously bad, but to see Arya rise from a trauma and strike Frey off a list truly showcased her development as a character. It was such a shame that they couldn't continue with her in the same way, but I guess we just need to take the W's as they come. Man, it sure felt wrong to see such a young girl slitting the throat of an elderly man, but the situation warranted it, so I have no issues.
You're not one of mine, are you?
No, my lord.
Didn't think so.
Too pretty.
Tarantino strikes again, and that too at the #1 spot. You'd be fair to assume that a film called Kill Bill would end with a dude named Bill getting killed, and that's exactly what happens. The fact that everyone was waiting for this moment, especially after the way Bill broke his bride's heart,
You and I have unfinished business.
only to see all of it end in 10 business seconds, was a stroke of cinematic genius. We were seeing tons of action sequences throughout the series, but the final battle was basically deep conversation, a few slashes, and a finisher move. I like how Bill honorably accepted his defeat, even though what he did was pretty messed up. It was actually uncharacteristic of Tarantino to provide such peaceful closure, but hey, that's the beauty of revenge, isn't it? I hope you like this video. Please subscribe to the TV Region, and here's another video that I know you're going to enjoy.